Our next session will tackle the ever-growing realm of blockchain and fintech. I'll be moderating the session. Mr. Juan Llanos from Consensus and Mrs. Marlos Pomp from the Dutch government will be joining me.
My name is Juan. I'm very thankful to be here. Thank you to the Al-Iktissad people for inviting me. It's an honor to be here in Lebanon and Beirut for the first time ever. So I have only 10 minutes to describe something that I've been working on and learning for the last 5 years. So I'm just going to breeze through it to try to make it interesting for you. So my background is in payments, cross-border payments, remittances, especially in anti-money laundering compliance. So I've been working in New York City for over 15 years now. And I was working in a remittance company and anti-money laundering compliance when I encountered Bitcoin for the first time in 2012, when I was doing research on emerging payment systems and threats, financial crime risks of emerging payment systems. So at that time, some of these people started investing or paying attention to Bitcoin. You might recognize some of them. The ladies might go to the upper left first. In general, that's what happens. But these people started getting interested in Bitcoin around 13, right? And why, right? Then in 2015, I had the opportunity to be invited to Richard Branson's island, Necker Island, right? So there was a first blockchain summit, and Sir Richard Branson was inviting some of us to discuss the potential of blockchain and Bitcoin technology. So at this table, this was the first morning. You may recognize some familiar faces. Obviously, Mr. Branson and this gentleman here on the right, Hernando de Soto, a very renowned economist, right? So why were these people worried and concerned about Bitcoin and blockchain? Why was there a summit organized by Richard Branson? And then why did the government of Dubai also decide to invest in this new technology? We're wondering, right? And they have been doing it very forcefully, very intently. My company, Consensus, is an advisor to the Dubai government, so we're working closely with them. And then also, you have the several jurisdictions globally competing for the right regulatory framework to embrace these new technologies, right? And Switzerland is one of them. There's plenty of others, Luxembourg, Gibraltar, Singapore, etc. And then we also have a new way of thinking about things with Estonia. Estonia is a country that came out of the USSR, the Soviet Union, and decided strategically to become a virtual country, basically. A country without borders, providing services to citizens anywhere in the world, and they created the concept of e-residency, electronic residency, right? So why is this happening, right? Why are we talking about blockchain? I don't know how much you know about blockchain, so I'm assuming not much, but I am also assuming a lot from some of you. So I'm just going to go through it very swiftly. But you have to understand that this is a new era. People are talking about a new era, a new way of doing computation, right? So we had the PC era, we had the internet era, and now we have the blockchain era. Systems are going to be transformed dramatically because of blockchain, right? And the promise of blockchain, which is counterintuitive to many of us, right? Especially people in the government, in enterprise, it's counterintuitive to talk about open systems, right? Because we need to keep control. You know, the government of the central bank this morning said that they had banned Bitcoin because they cannot control the rules of Bitcoin, right? So that's a natural reaction to something that is open, right? And the promise of blockchain is this: decentralization of control, decentralization of computation, and trust, right? But all of the things we're discussing this morning, this day, have to do with central control. Think about it. Protecting a centralized point of control from external threats and even internal threats, right? So all you are left to do is create a perimeter around a center that needs to be protected. That's the paradigm today. In this world, we don't have a center. There's no center to protect. Why? Because technology, the databases and the computation is distributed across a network of computers. That is a fundamental change, right? And then enabling value flow without intermediaries. So now we are able to send value across the world. And value by value, we mean anything of value, right? The representation of value for currency, the representation of a share of stock, etc., all in a distributed fashion, completely different from what we're used to, what humanity has been used to, right? So this is what happened. We have been talking about virtual assets, digital assets for a long time, until in 2009, Bitcoin happened, right? People don't want to talk about Bitcoin because it's controversial, right? Oh, Bitcoin associated with crime. It's used for ransomware. But it's technology that exists and it's there, and we, all of you, have to deal with it. We cannot just ignore it. Oh, Bitcoin, I don't care about Bitcoin, it's risky, I'm going to focus on something else. Bitcoin and the technology behind Bitcoin is already transforming the world. And the problem with Bitcoin, or the challenge with Bitcoin, is that it's completely different from what existed before, right? We have a transparent database. Who wants a transparent database? No one in their right mind wants full transparency, right? We want to protect confidentiality and privacy, right? Or if you're in law enforcement, of course you want full transparency because you want to catch criminals. You want to know who's behind the keyboard all the time. So privacy and confidentiality and anonymity are very controversial issues, and they're happening in this new technology. So, but the interesting thing about the blockchain is that now you can transfer digital assets globally without the risk of the same asset being replicated. If you copy a photo on an email or an attachment, it will be replicated. There will be a copy on your computer, on the recipient computer, on the email server, but in the digital world of blockchain, digital assets are unique. They cannot be copied. Think about the transformation in the world when a digital asset, something that is just a digital I's and O's, ones and zeros, cannot be copied. That's revolutionary. Another thing that's revolutionary, of course, the transparency of the database. And then the fact that there is no central authority guaranteeing anything. The network guarantees protection and security. Then, an evolution of Bitcoin was the appearance of a new network called Ethereum. Another complicated name that you have to get familiar with, Ethereum. And what this computer did is it enabled the design of any application on a distributed database. Meaning, if you have code running on a server, and if you have code being represented on a browser, on an app, you need a client-server architecture, right? That's how computers work today in the modern world. Well, now you don't need a server anymore to run a computer or to program any logic imaginable. That is revolutionary. Now you can, any system that exists today can be reprogrammed, recomputed, recreated in a distributed database without client and server. Obviously, we need a browser, we need a smartphone, we need the hardware, we need the devices, but the actual computation happens in a distributed network of thousands and thousands of computers. So there's no single point of control and no single point of failure. Think about how revolutionary that is for cybersecurity. No single point of control, no single point of failure. And the third thing that this new technology introduced is the ability to incentivize the right behaviors with the tokens. With tokens of value, and there's hundreds, and there's probably thousands out there. By the way, I'm an advisor to multiple companies in this space. Everything is publicly disclosed on my LinkedIn profile, my public persona. I am an advisor to multiple companies that issue tokens, that I am an investor in tokens. So I have an economic interest in the growth of these technologies, public disclosure, right? honestly. But I believe in the technology, how transformative this technology will be, right? So crypto tokens could influence the right behaviors and discourage the wrong behaviors. So even for attackers, think about the implications for cybersecurity, right? We were talking about we have to make the attack more costly than the bounty, right? So if you attack something but it costs you too much, you don't do it. You're discouraged, economically discouraged. These systems replicate the same economic incentives at a very atomic level of the application of the technology. So there are systems for honest behavior, incentives for honest behavior, right? Okay, this is a smart contract. Just a program. It's a program where you just insert the logic. If this happens, then this will happen. It's a robot. Smart contracts are robots. If you have heard of the term smart contract and it's confusing, it's just a robot. It's a program that interfaces, that runs logic. Very complex logic can be programmed, any kind of logic. You can replicate any software in the world. You can replicate, for example, Uber. Uber is a marketplace connecting drivers with passengers. But it still needs a company in the middle. It still needs a San Francisco-based company with a building, employees, servers, databases, etc., right? So there's control. Well, you can replace the entire Uber with a smart contract. Same with the depository trust and clearing. I shouldn't mention that particular trust and clearing corporation, but it's just an example of a financial intermediary, a necessary participant in the system today. We cannot have stocks and bonds settled without an intermediary today. Someone has to keep track of the transfer of assets, right? Well, in the world of blockchain, you can do that with a smart contract. So you don't need these armies of accountants, armies of controllers, armies of financial auditors reviewing transactions because of the nature of the blockchain, right? So here's 3 things. If you're a banker and you're worried about this, if you're a government and you're worried about this, here's 3 opportunities for reinvention. If you already have the infrastructure, the brand recognition, the infrastructure, the investments that you have put out for decades, there's ways you can reinvent yourselves with blockchain. I think that Marlo is going to talk about that later. So one of them is payments. So look at payments. Think about payments. It's crazy how the world manages payments. This is the supply chain of a money transfer product. So there's all these hoops that the physical analog cash, people, controls, have to go through to move money from country A to country B, person A to person B. You can replace that by replacing the treasury with digital treasury, and then by enabling the transfer of value digitally from person to person. That is possible today, and it's happening today, whether we like it or not. It's happening today. People are moving value from smartphone to smartphone globally at very low cost in an alternative universe to what we know today. It's a parallel universe. It's not what you know, what you work with, how you get paid. It's a completely separate universe on the side. It didn't exist until 9 years ago, right? So that's payments. Identity. This is also crazy. Why do we need to spray all of our identity, our personal identifier information, anywhere in the world that we shop? It's crazy, right? I come to this hotel, I have to give a copy of my passport. Someone here in the hotel has a copy of my identity. What if that is a bad employee and he takes it to someone else, sells my information? I don't know. I have no way to control that, right? So, and then I go online and I want to buy something, and I have to enter my information, my address, my phone number, even to register for email sometimes, right? So we have to disclose our email, we have to disclose our phone number, my nationality, my country of residence, sometimes my date of birth, because they want to send me unwanted advertisement about the day of my birthday. I don't care, I don't celebrate birthdays. So why do you send me stuff? I don't know, they just mean to please you somehow. Anyway, so identity today is a disaster, right? And I'm quoting my president, right? That's a joke. Okay, so because I'm a US citizen. So anyway, so identity should be or could be done completely differently by, and this is, by the way, we cannot see anything here, but it's too small. Identity is foundational for political, economic, and social opportunity. Yet over 1 billion people are unable to prove who they are. So this is also about people who do not have an identity, political identity or a legal identity. So we have the opportunity to make distributed identity a reality, to make it portable, just as you carry your phone number, right? If you change, I don't know what companies are here, are there in Lebanon for phone? So we have, okay, so we have, in the United States, we have Verizon, and we have T-Mobile, and we have AT&T, right? So I can carry my phone from one carrier to the other, but I cannot carry my identity from one bank to the other, or from one e-commerce site to the other. If I work on LinkedIn, and I have all my career on LinkedIn, and LinkedIn goes belly up, or something happens to LinkedIn, I cannot carry those 20 years of reputation to a different platform. Why cannot we not carry our own identity in the 21st century, right? Okay, it's possible, and banks have the opportunity today to reinvent themselves by being attestators and holders of identity because they have excellent technology and databases. So now we have the coordination problem. Why do we have to have a KYC file for every financial institution? Why isn't there a single file that can be read by all financial institutions and trusted by all financial institutions? So we can go from this spaghetti to this, from this to this, right? All right, the final opportunity for banks. So basically, it's incredible amount of savings. If you're in, there's different motivations for blockchain. We have to understand. There's motivations for creating a parallel universe for people who did not have access to anything. And there's also a motivation for current entities and enterprises and governments to reinvent their processes, to reduce cost and inefficiencies, to create safer products and safer systems. And this is most of the work that we are doing as consulting, in consulting with governments. We're helping governments reinvent themselves. All of the administrative headaches can be reduced enormously with blockchain technology. And of course, there's also the opportunity of empowering people, and this is how we're going to finish today. But anyway, asset custody. Banks are, first of all, licensed to hold assets, right? So the only companies in the world licensed to hold custody are banks. I mean, if I have a money transmitter, I cannot hold assets on my name, in my own servers. I have to have a bank account and connect to that bank account. So the only authorized depositories in the world are banks. So why can't they not hold cryptographic or digital assets? It's very easy, right? The transformation is very easy. So private key management and custody of digital assets is an opportunity for banks, right? Anyway, this is a segue to the next speaker. It's about the challenges with this new technology. This technology exists already. We cannot wish it away. Bitcoin hit over $10,000 yesterday, right? One coin, $10,000 today. So we cannot just say, okay, it's going to go away, the bubble is going to burst, it's going to go to zero. No, there's hundreds of thousands of programmers and developers and very smart people globally, some of whom I showed you earlier, and they're already working on this. So we have to rethink about everything that we know in a world of blockchain, right? So in a world where this is the case, and where the paradigm is completely decentralized, no borders, no jurisdictions, no restrictions, no limits, how do we deal? It's all about freedom to own and freedom to transfer value and to innovate. That's what the blockchain is about. And this is regulation today. Regulation is by industry, by product, by activity. If you're a banker, you have banking regulation. If you're an airline, you have airline regulation, or safety regulation for airlines. If you're a transportation shipping company, you have that kind of regulation. If you're a health insurance company or a hospital, you have regulations for hospitals. It's all about product. But the networks, interconnected networks, change the paradigm. We have to stop thinking about industry and intermediaries, right? So there's a big, big mismatch between the technology that is emerging and the regulatory frameworks today. We're working on that. Finally, because of these things, finally, I'm going to say finally twice, because I have 2 more chapters. So because of these restrictions and obstacles, we have now private blockchains. And I think Marlo is going to talk about private blockchains. Why? Because you're going to also exploit some of the attributes of this technology for internal record benefits, right? Like cost savings. So there's going to be a lot of private blockchains, and there are already private blockchains, and that's why banks and large companies are already experimenting with this. Okay, this is the final promise, the final 20 seconds. So this gentleman here is the reason everyone was taking pictures of Richard Branson. I took pictures with Hernando de Soto. Because I read his book, The Mystery of Capital, in 2004. So I met him 11 years later in person, and I was the only Spanish speaker on the island that day. So I had a great moment to connect with this person who's very inspirational. And the reason is that I recommend that if you really care, if you really care about society, the progress of humanity, solving the root of the problems, not only this, not the symptoms, the root, the causes of the problems, you have to read The Mystery of Capital. Okay? The Mystery of Capital is about record keeping. Record keeping. If you make something, if you make a record of something that transcends humans throughout history and cannot be changed, that is a very revolutionary concept. The point of the book is that you can have assets, but you need registration or record keeping to have capital. If you don't have a way to record the assets, you cannot convert assets into capital. Right? Why? Because you cannot, if I have this as an asset, a microphone, I have to record it somewhere else and go to the bank and show to the bank, oh, this belongs to me. So property needs to be recorded in some place. And then if it's not recorded, you are going to claim that the mic is yours, and I'm going to claim that it's mine, and we're going to fight. And this is the nature of all conflict in humanity. Think about it. So when you have a system that records facts forever, history changes, right? This is a blockchain. This is a chain of title that Hernando de Soto presented from the Inca, the ownership of mines from the Inca times to now, throughout history, all paper-based. If someone burns that, property goes away. Registration of property goes away, right? So it's about unearthing the underground economy. It's about 10 trillion of unregistered assets in the economy. And it's about all these products that can be created to transform society. Remittances, property rights, identity, global commerce, renewable energy, and identity, and remittances. All right, so if you think that you're worried and you mind your own pond, your own lake, you have to think about ocean, you have to think about lake. Stop thinking about lake, think about ocean, the larger picture. And people who have a vision are able to build from here to here, and from here to here. Thank you.
Thank you so much for inviting me. I'm Marloes Pomp. I'm the program manager of the blockchain projects run by the Dutch government. At this moment, we've worked on 35 use cases. We've built a lot of prototypes, and last month we had the first implementation. So 2017 was the year of learning and trying, and 2018 will be the year of implementing blockchain. Yeah, it might be an overkill to show you all the projects we work on, so I will select a few examples. If you want to know more about all the projects, please let me know. I can send you an email with a list of all the topics we work on. For example, last month we have implemented a blockchain for subsidies at a certain city. We also work on blockchain in combination with autonomous objects in public space. For example, we have built a street light with a sensor, and when the sensor says it's broken, the blockchain of the smart contracts sends out a micro job to people who can repair the street light. When the sensor says it works again, then the payment can be done automatically. We also work on, we do a lot of tests with autonomous vehicles, and I think that's the most simple case where you see the combination of different technologies. The car needs sensors to drive, you need artificial intelligence to drive smarter, but when you want the car to do payments by itself, for example, toll or a parking fee, then you need blockchain. I also saw a flyer for the next conference in Dubai on blockchain in combination with sharing economy. We also do a lot of projects on sharing economy examples. For example, with the city of Rotterdam, we built a decentralized Airbnb. So if you want to know more about that, please let me know. We really believe that the blockchain can make the sharing economy more mature. With the government of Belgium, we work on the registration of certificates of schools or universities on the blockchain. And we also take a look at the registration of birth certificates on blockchain. It might help to identify, for example, refugees sooner or faster. With the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, we work on we do a research. We compare a lot of different possibilities to use blockchain as a tool to combat fake news. And with 5 different cities, we work on blockchain for voting. Like I said, and can email you the complete list. Another thing we did 2 weeks ago, I was the mission leader of the first formal blockchain trade mission to Singapore, and we will start a collaboration with Singapore to work together on with Interpol, Singapore, and the Netherlands on cyber and blockchain. It might be interesting to join or to develop some tools you can use at the Budapest Convention. What's also interesting to note is that Singapore has launched 2 weeks ago the first guideline to, for ICOs based in Singapore, and I think that's a nice first step to get to come to regulation, and that's of course a major topic at our government. We really have to hurry up with regulation on cryptocurrencies and ICOs. When we work on these use cases, we pick a certain use case, and then we do actually matchmaking with blockchain experts, and then we try to figure out how the process will change when you use blockchain, and after that we will build some prototypes and do some tests in real life. And at all the use case, it's a combination of technical experts, universities, corporates, and the government. Well, when I first finished a prototype, it was a prototype in the healthcare industry. The top officials had 2 questions for me. The first was, is it technically correct? They didn't have Ethereum experts in their own organization. That was the easiest question because I could do some reviews and the prototype worked correctly. But the second questions they had is it legal correct? Can we use it with current privacy laws? Is it safe to use? Well, that's why we have developed a legal checkup with some legal experts. They can bring out a legal certificate for the use cases we have built in the Netherlands. And we have also a legal study group working on smart contracts, and I can share that information also with you. Well, the next step for us is, and that's also why I'm here, blockchain is of course a world without borders, and we need to collaborate much faster than we do at this moment. That's why we have built a network with people from the United Nations, the World Bank, European Union, and we do the matchmaking between countries to work together on prototypes to share the prototypes, test each other's prototypes, and start new projects together. And I really hope we can set up a use case with the Netherlands and Lebanon together. We will also have an event with the World Bank in April where we will bring together governments to share knowledge and start talking faster about regulation. Well, a lot of people, not everybody is convinced about why you should work on blockchain. Is it hype or not? Well, I think the criminals have already proven that there's a very firm use case for blockchain, and it started when they combined the dark web with bitcoins, of course. But luckily, the police and Interpol are sometimes able to catch up with those criminals. And one example is from last June. The Dutch police was able to run Hansa Market for a month. They turned off the encryption, and I think a lot of arrestations will follow very soon. So it is possible to catch up. But we have to, really hurry up. It's the same what you said before. Well, what can we do in general? I think we need better tools. We really have to develop better tools to monitor what's happening on blockchain in combination with cyber. We have to put more effort in training on the dark web and cryptocurrencies, and we have to share knowledge. Well, I would like to conclude. Maybe you can, I have an animation, because I really would like to set up a collaboration, and for that everybody talks about Dubai. And I think Dubai, they have the biggest ambition, but in the Netherlands we are very good in setting up difficult coalitions and to run complex projects. And we have we have made a small promotion animation about the Netherlands and why you should work with us together.
In the Netherlands, we work on many blockchain projects. But let us first do a little bit of country marketing. Our country, also known as the Lowlands, is almost entirely below sea level, so our history is one of constantly fighting against water. We started using windmills to pump water away and to create new dry land. We call this dry land below sea level a polder. So we are quite inventive when it comes to creating new land. We are also good in creating new coins. A couple of 100 years ago, we did have something that resembles a successful ICO. This was the token, a tulip flower. At the height of the so-called tulip fever in 1635, one flower was sold for the same price as a very nice Amsterdam canal house. We mentioned our windmills and polders. To create this land out of the sea, a lot of collaboration was needed between the state, different investors, and all the engineers who made it technically possible. We later called this model of complex project management the polder model. In the Netherlands, we have also applied this polder model on blockchain development. We have a national blockchain coalition that brings together government, business, and universities. In several field labs, stakeholders work together on specific themes like transport, public services, smart cities, fintech, and healthcare. The government itself has initiated more than 30 different projects that aim to reduce bureaucracy and improve services for our citizens. As we fought water together with technology, let's now solve global challenges with blockchain.
Thank you.
Thank you, Marlos. We're running a little bit late, so I just need to check if you have any questions from the audience.
Thank you very much for the presentation, very well informative. I have one question and one point of advice. Regarding, you stated that we can store facts forever using blockchain technology. If I remember well, I think this is good for now. Now it's to maybe follow the logic how it works. Yeah, this is possible. But looking at the future, as a cryptographic background you talk about blockchain as a beautiful place forever. One more point, in Lebanon, we're lucky because we have a community for blockchain and Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies. We have here Ms. Samantha, she's the head of this community. So we're doing something in this area. But we're really concerned to see what would happen if blockchain is a long-term,
Okay.
Thank you.
Is this on? Can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
So on the comment on the long-term viability of blockchains, think about systems today, right? We have, each of your companies has a database, it has a redundant site, probably in the same country, or if you're using the cloud, you may have a different availability zone within the same continent. You may have a replication of the database or your systems in Eastern Europe and another one in the Middle East, and probably in Southeast Asia, 3 replicate copies, right? Okay, so that's fine. It's the way we store digital assets today. And by the way, every single company uses the same kind of cryptography today that Bitcoin uses to encrypt and to process the information, right? Especially the same encryption algorithms are used by all of you without you knowing. Only your technical people know that, right? So, okay, let's think about the future. Blockchains have distributed databases. So the same exact copy that I have on my laptop here, or this is going to be a node or a member of a peer in the network, has exactly the same copy as hundreds of thousands of computers around the world, and probably in the future outside of the sphere that we call Earth, the planet, right? Because it's digital information, it can be copied in satellites. There are people working on copying the blockchain on satellites today. So can you replicate the entire database of your company in a satellite? It's very expensive. But this is a network, a communal network that copies the entire database in computation in any node, anywhere in the world, on the planet and off the planet. So long term, there's more viability, more redundancy, and more resilience than any existing system ever created by humans. Number one. Quantum computing, the ability to process 2 states at the same time, meaning yes and no at the same time. That's what quantum computing is. Meaning computers are going to be extremely fast. And some of the work that's required for encryption today, for protecting encryption, even in your own companies, requires fast computations. So the faster you compute a hash, the faster you prove that you can insert, you earn the right to insert a block on the blockchain, right? So the concern is very real. If you process very fast, may I not create an alternative chain or win over someone else and break the consensus? Those are really legitimate concerns. Well, the same minds that created those algorithms are now thinking about how to create quantum-resistant algorithms. And they're working on it right now, and I had a seminar with them last week. So humanity will figure out, human experts are going to figure out how to solve this. If not, we're probably going to get help from extraterrestrials.
Lara, we can't hear you. Can you stop?
He's coming.
Given today that we're at the anti-cybercrime forum, I just wanted to ask a quick question. Okay, so blockchain is known for its security, entrepreneur security. I haven't seen yet a blockchain case study for anti-criminal activity or using it for anti-cybercrime activity or policing or anything like that. How can you use it for that?
So the thing with blockchains is that when I said paradigms challenged, and I put security, identity, governance, all of these concepts need to be reinvented, right? We talked about earlier about the central point of control and the central point of failure, and the necessity to build perimeter controls, right? I was walking around the palace here, and there was like a lot of barbed wire, right? There's a lot of guards with guns everywhere in the city, right? And why? Because they're protecting the perimeter of a certain invaluable asset, right? That's how security works today, right? In the world of blockchains, this data is distributed, copied everywhere, but the security is flipped on the side, right? because now the owner of the key is whoever has access to the assets that are replicated on the blockchain. So what happens, instead of having a perimeter of a lot of guards, a lot of protections, firewalls, layers of security around the center, now we have to protect the key to access, to prove the ownership of the asset. So that is a change that is now, what happens here is that now you can have a key that is distributed across multiple people. It's like the missiles in the movies, right? You need a key here, and then you need another key to launch the missile, right? Across the ocean, right? That's what we see in movies. So that's called multi-signature, or sharded keys, meaning that the key that gives you access to the asset, to prove the ownership and to transfer the asset, now has to be distributed just as computers are distributed. So now we have to create a new model for security, right? Cybersecurity is going to move away from protecting the perimeter to designing new key management mechanisms and segregating the keys and distributing them across several participants. So now the process is, the problem becomes a problem of governance, right? Instead of being a single point of failure, a single point of access, and a single point of control, now we have a problem or a challenge of governance. How do we decide who has access to the asset, or who can sign the transaction? So this will require a lot of cooperation and coordination, and this is why economic incentives are important, right? Because now we're going to have to create incentives for people to collaborate and to act honestly. This is how cybersecurity is going to change. Of course, I'm saying something that may not resonate with you today, but remember this: the security is going to move away from protecting the perimeter to a distributed key management system where we have to coordinate the control and the ownership of the keys.
Juan, so this blockchain, this data, this contract, this asset is distributed on several nodes, let's say 100 servers.
Yes.
What happens when we reach a moment that where a group of hackers manage to hack 50% of these nodes, 51%? So we will have to protect each node. We will go again to the centralized security.
That is that is the single most important risk with blockchains. Mm-hmm. The ability that if you control the majority of the network, and we're talking about proof of work, right? Proof of work, proof of work is how the current blockchains work today. You have to prove that you invested a lot of energy and time in solving a puzzle to earn the right to sign a transaction, right? That's how it works. So if 51%, more than half of the participants on the network are able to sign a transaction, they can create a fork, create a new reality, right? Okay. But that doesn't mean that this fork will stop existing. It just will be there and will probably become stale, but the records will still be there, right? Okay. And this new reality, again, if there's an asset that is important to someone that gets stolen, like records or identity or money, so that new collaboration or consortium of thieves will need to find a way to gain consensus from society that that's a new reality. So imagine that you have to disclose yourself now. Hi, I'm the thief. I stole $20 billion and I need your help so I can change these assets into your assets. So there's a problem of legitimacy that even the thieves and the forkers, or the new reality builders, will have to deal with, right? So it's very interesting that this is not only about technology, it's about social coordination, economic incentives, and legitimacy, social legitimacy. So there is a risk, true, that there could be a change, but it's very problematic. So, but there's new mechanisms now to sign transactions and to achieve consensus, and that will incentivize the right behaviors and penalize the wrong behaviors. Okay. So no one
in their right mind, unless they're an irrational actor. My main concern, if you want to know my main concern, is irrational actors. Crazy people. Irrational actors. Because if you're a rational actor, you pursue a goal, right? You pursue some political goal, some economic dominance goal. But if you're an irrational actor, it's a Pyrrhic victory. You burn yourself, right? No one wins. And that is a risk I am personally very concerned. But it's in general about humanity. We can blow ourselves up tomorrow. I mean, it's a general concern about ourselves. We can either live peacefully or kill ourselves. It's our choice.
I would like to add some comments on that. In the Netherlands, we think it's still too early to answer those questions, and that's why we test a lot of different blockchains with different consensus models, because it's too early to know already. But it develops so quickly that you really have to learn right way how this could work and work on scenarios. And another thing is, I've learned already that it's not only maybe the technology is safe, but there are a lot of other hurdles you have to take. For example, the smart contracts is just code. There can be a lot of wrong code, bad code. We also have, technically it's actually the easiest part at our use cases. It's much more complex to bring all those parties together and to make them work together. So I think there's still a lot of work to do.
Marlos, one last question. You were talking about collaboration and that you're looking to collaborate with startups and companies working on blockchain projects in the region. So how can companies interested in working on blockchain or testing prototypes contact you?
Yeah, just send me an email or give me your business card or find me on LinkedIn, and we can discuss if there's a topic we can work on together, or maybe you can join the research on blockchain and cyber, or share knowledge.
Thank you. Any more questions?
You can also contact me, right?
Yeah, if they want to learn more about blockchain, they can join Unlock Blockchain in Dubai. We have a conference in January. Thank you, Lara.
I will be there. I will be there.
Juan will be there, and you can meet him also. So thank you. We'll have 60 minutes for lunch, and we'll be back. Thank you.
Thank you.